For over 2 years, we have worked intensely with an amazing group of experts in trying to put together all the best available evidence on traumatic brain injury. And what is most important, I think, it is in view of such evidence, what are the steps that policymakers and clinicians need to take to move the field forward.
House, the Parliament, European Parliament. It is important to have the chance to discuss with you the challenges for research and development of traumatic brain injury.
There are so many gaps in our knowledge of what TBI actually is and how we can best treat it. We propose a number of recommendations on how to take the field forward, both in terms of the structure of process and in terms of advancing research to detect best practices.
It brings all of the knowledge we have on traumatic brain injury into one place. But equally important is the fact that it brings all the people who are interested in furthering the outcomes and improving outcomes from traumatic brain injury into a network for future work.
This commission of the Lancet Neurology already involved over 300 experts, and that's fantastic. And that's starting the global collaborations we need to have.
So we're keen on this type of collaboration, but we're also keen that it delivers. And it's important that we pursue this to the end of the project and at the same time investigate and explore how we can continue, which directions, which scope, with the same partners from other countries or elsewhere.
So the next step of the future is really along 3 parallel tracks. First of all, we need to understand the problem of TBI more. That includes better epidemiology, better understanding of the biology, and better understanding of how we have different modes of implementation of management in different countries. We then need to look for new treatments and better modes of implementation. And finally, we need to take these advances and implement them into practice.
Biggest burden of traumatic brain injury and traumatic brain injury deaths is borne by low-income countries. And the fact that it's number 1 and number 2 lethal injury, and the fact that the incidence of traumatic brain injury is going up all over the world, we need to really take note of that and do some big steps to change it.
In China, about 1 million new cases of TBI each year, and the traffic accident is still number 1 cause of TBI.
I think, as we know, that the majority of the patients of TBI are from lower and middle income group countries. It's very, very important that we need to stress on global cooperation, especially we have been discussing regarding data collection throughout all the countries of the world as much as possible.
And most of the funding, both from government resources as well as external resources, goes disproportionately to infectious diseases. Lots of data on tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV/AIDS. But when it comes to head injuries, very, very little.
All these major studies will have gathered a lot of evidence. Then the idea is to put together this group again and to go back to the recommendations of this paper that we are launching today and try to have a critical look at them and think what went well, what lessons we have learned with this new evidence, and how can we now move the field forward with a different set of recommendations.
We all agree that we need to leave the methodology or change it, the methodology, and keep as a guidelines how do we are helpful, clinically speaking, to our colleagues. Thank you.
What we need is guidelines that build over time and react to changes in the evidence, because we know the evidence is changing all the time and new interventions come around and new ways of delivering interventions come around, and all of those need to play their part in informing recommendations for patients and healthcare professionals.